and welcome to another episode of Nappy Changing and Brand Building with me, Laura Crawford, CEO and founder of Mama Bamboo. And today I am delighted to be joined by the inspirational Rachael Marsh, who is the founder of Ickle Pickles Children's Charity. Having had her own son Charlie 12 weeks premature, she then started Ickle Pickles Charity 16 years ago, Rachael?
15 years ago.
15 years ago. And it has grown to support a lot of the neonatal units across the southeast and nationwide in raising funds for essential equipment. And I'm delighted to say they have partnered with us at Mama Bamboo to design and donate our size 0 tiny baby nappies to 5 of the neonatal wards in the southeast, and to help us run our Give Another Mother scheme, where we're hoping to expand our donation by asking our consumers to join us, and for every £1 they donate, we will match them pound for pound and give more nappies to more families in need. So welcome, Rachael.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. So really, I just wanted to ask a few questions about how you got started with Ickle Pickles, and a little bit about your personal journey with Charlie.
Yeah, so Charlie was born at 28 weeks and 2 days in March 2008. He was my first child, so I didn't really know what to expect. And I went into spontaneous labour. So it was a real shock to myself and my husband.
I can imagine.
5 hours of labour, very, very quick. He was very fragile, so we were only allowed gas and air, no other intervention. And I saw a very brief glimpse of him when he was delivered. He had to be resuscitated. And then he was whisked away to a neonatal ward. And it was a world that I didn't really know existed prior to him being there.
Totally unprepared for.
Completely unprepared. So I got to see him 2 hours later when he was set up in the incubator, surrounded by machines, beeping monitors, wires. And he was £2, 4 ounces.
Oh, so small.
So very, very weeny, so 1.1 kilos. And he just was like a bird. He was very, very tiny, very thin, translucent skin, no fat on him. He hadn't had that time to grow and develop. And so, he was just very, very tiny and quite poorly.
I assume. And how long were you in the ward for until he was able to come home?
So we were in neonates for 8 to 6 days.
Okay.
So,
which is a long time.
Which is a long time. And so he was in intensive care for a good few weeks, and then he progressed into high dependency and then special care, which is where they are waiting to let you take them home. But 86 days. And he came home the day before he was due.
Oh, amazing. So he knew when his due date was.
Yeah. And that was a milestone that the hospitals will always talk about. Ideally, we want to get you home with your baby for when they're due.
Time. And were you in the same hospital for the whole time?
We were in St George's in southwest London. So we were lucky because it was our local hospital, and that's where he was supposed to be born. So, and they had a bed, luckily.
Perfect. And I take it they had the teams on hand for... Yeah. There's different tiers to neonatal wards, aren't there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So if it's the more specialist hospitals, often the teaching hospitals like St George's or King's College, they are level 3. Mm-hmm. So they can take the smallest and the sickest of babies. There's level 2, which is like the Croydon unit where we
went today.
And then level 1, which is much more focused on special care. And not all babies are born prematurely that need neonatal care as well. There's babies that have born needing surgery potentially, or if they're just a little bit poorly when they arrive, even if they're at term. Yeah. It's the neonatal unit.
And of course, quite a lot of multiple births as well.
Yes. Lots of twins, triplets.
Yeah. How many babies actually get submitted to the neonatal wards?
So with sick and premature babies, it's 90,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Per year?
Yes.
That is an awful lot of babies.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And how long do most of them stay on the wards? What's kind of the...
It can vary, really. I think it depends on the situation, how early they were. When a baby's born very early, their lungs haven't developed sufficiently. Yeah. So a bit like Charlie at 28 weeks. So 3 months early, their lungs still need a lot of developing. So they can't breathe for themselves. So it's quite a long journey to get them through that process and off the sort of ventilators onto different ways of breathing and support, but still supported. Mm. So it's a really difficult, difficult one.
It can be quite a range.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fabulous. And I take it now Charlie is doing well?
He is. He's doing really well. He's Yeah, he's 15. He's taller than me, and he's about to go into his GCSE year. So,
a proper grown up.
yeah, he's a proper boy, but he's fantastic. He has some struggles at school. You know, sometimes that's what they tell you, that a preterm baby might have a few problems, but he's also got the biggest heart, and he's an incredible boy. So we haven't really hit those teen moods yet. I'm sure they're coming.
Let's hope we avoid them entirely. I'm sure if you've got to 15, 16, you might actually manage to skip them.
No, absolutely. And yeah, he's very creative. He loves singing, so he's part of the Royal Academy of Music that he goes to every week, which is something we never thought would be possible when you're sort of staring at that tiny baby in an incubator.
When you look back and think how tiny he was, and the battle to actually get him, the fact that he's growing and thriving and finding his own feet in the world now.
Absolutely.
It's so heartwarming.
Yeah, it really is. And I think you just will them to live at those early days, those early stages. And they always talk about the roller coaster of the neonatal world, that sometimes you can have a few good days and then you might have a few bad days. And it's just a very, very difficult environment to be.
Stressful environment.
Yeah.
And how did you get started with Ickle Pickles then?
So we went through the 3 months neonatal journey and came out of it wanting to give something back for the care that Charlie had received. We were blown away by the clinical teams and the work that they did, but we were also quite astonished when I know when I was sitting next to Charlie's incubator, it had been donated. There was a plaque on that being donated by a trust fund, and I just didn't realise that there was a need.
That they weren't just provided by the NHS.
That's right, and budgets are shrinking all the time, and there's,
and as you say, it's such a lot of little babies that need help.
Yeah, and I think that the technology is changing all the time. If you think about IVF, the multiple births, often they come early, so there's a lot of pressure on these units with the amount of babies that are being delivered there. We're leaving it later to have our babies, and there's complications with that as well. So we hadn't realised there was a real need for support. And so my husband said, once we'd been discharged, I think we should give something back. I was, absolutely. I think we should set up a charity. I was like, absolutely. Obviously, my hormones were all over the place. And he said, I think we should call it the Pickles. Oh. And the reason for that was when Charlie was born, he didn't open his eyes for 3 weeks. So he couldn't name him. And one of the nurses caring for him got quite tired of calling him male infant Marsh. So she said, I'm going to call him my Ickle Pickle.
My Ickle Pickle, which is such a lovely little name. Yeah. So when did you actually get started with it then?
So it was pretty much the year after Charlie was born. And we decided that we wanted to give other parents the opportunity to fundraise for their local unit if they wanted to. Found that wasn't something that was easy to do. So we focused on essential equipment. So it might be something like a ventilator that is £25,000 down to a breast pump so the mum could express.
Yes. It's not always the big incubator, is it, that's missing?
No, absolutely. And even, recliner chairs to sit in if you were going to give your baby the essential skin.
Yeah. We actually just went to the Croydon hospital today, and the dad there was saying that he used to have to sit in a very basic, almost office chair to do the skin-to-skin contact. Yeah. And he was so glad when he then got access to this sort of reclining soft chair, because it made the whole experience so much better for him, for the baby. And he nearly fell asleep in it after 3 hours the other day, which is lovely to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also really interesting for us as the charity's grown and developed, how the technology and the equipment and things have changed. So I was that parent sat up in a very rigid chair trying to give skin-to-skin time with Charlie, which was amazing for bonding, I think. I had Charlie on the Friday and was very disengaged. And the staff encouraged me to hold him on the Sunday when he was stable enough. And we had skin-to-skin time, and
that changed
everything changed. I wasn't going anywhere. But the chair, it was always a bit of an uncomfortable experience because you're just bowled upright. Whereas one of the things that we are buying are a lot of these reclining chairs for those parents, for the dads like you're talking about, and the mums to have that, reclining, relaxing time that they can do it by the bedside. And also if they want to express, they could do it in comfort.
Express. And when they can also do the breastfeeding that way as well. I think people often think when you're on the neonatal ward, there's no breastfeeding going on because the babies are in the incubators. But actually, once they move into the open cots, mums are encouraged to breastfeed, and they could do with somewhere very comfortable.
Yes, absolutely.
To get started.
Yeah, I know it's even some of the things that we buy for some of the units. We buy, the privacy screens that mean if a parent does want to have some time, if they're breastfeeding or what have you, they can do that. And we've also bought some breastfeeding covers for parents as well. So, the range of what we
you cover off a lot. And I know today when we were on the ward, we saw things like bottle warmers and sterilisers. And again, it helps the parents to relieve some of the stress and make it an easier journey.
Yes, and I think it was very much about being able to buy the essential equipment that the units need and want, and that's always the focus that we have. But it was also allowing other parents to, if they wanted to donate or fundraise for that particular unit, they could do it through us. And then the really lovely part is that if there's a piece of equipment that they've donated, then there's space, we can put a plaque on it. And it's got a little message from the family, and that actually gives hope and inspiration and warmth to parents that are going through it when they, their babies experience.
And you don't just do the kind of the equipment and the fundraising. You also do coffee mornings and community things so that you can bring about a kind of positive community around those that are either going through it at the moment or that have actually been discharged and are at home, but that can get quite isolating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was something that we were doing a while back and found it a really positive experience for those parents. But then COVID stopped an awful lot of that. But luckily we're seeing those meetups coming back. And I think feedback from parents that we've had is actually other neonatal parents are the ones who understand what you're going through or what you've been through. If your baby's gone home on oxygen, there's no one asking awkward questions or staring because there's literally an oxygen tank in the buggy. If your baby's obviously smaller, as Charlie was, then they're asking questions if your child's going to be all right. And those normal playgroups that the majority of mums and dads could go to are not a comfortable place for often parents that have been in neonates. So having those coffee mornings starting again are a really a really positive move and a nice environment for those parents to be in. And the story sharing.
I think the stories, and particularly the positive stories that you will get through this. Like, as you say, there are good days, there are bad days. It's a journey. But it's really heartwarming for them to hear from parents that say, I went through this. My little boy is 15. My little girl is 6. And just give them that little bit of hope.
Yes, absolutely. I think, and I know when I was in the neonatal unit, they used to have walls of pictures of graduates, as they call them, in terms of how they were and how they are now. And that gave you an awful lot of hope. And that's something that we put on our website as well. So parents that get in touch, we encourage them to write their story and put in a picture or two. And that's a really nice place for parents to visit and actually, read a bit about what a family's been through and potentially, and compare and understand how it is for them as well. So the website's a really good place for that.
Yes, I've been through your website and read lots of the stories on there, and it's so nice to hear somebody's story from kind of the unexpected emergency, checking into the hospital, the stress of the hospital, however long the stay is, and then the lovely story at the end that actually somebody gets to go home and grows and thrives.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we first came to you, we were talking about how Mama Bamboo could sort of get involved and help you out. We were talking about possibly making cash donations, etc. But actually, we landed on a slightly different solution for Mama Bamboo to support Ickle Pickles, which was actually to design a small, tiny baby nappy, a size 0, with the bamboo and the cornstarch, etc., that we use in our normal range. And it's funny, isn't it? Because nappies seem rather inconsequential when we're talking about incubators and we're talking about babies on oxygen tanks, etc. The nappy seems a little bit trivial, but you said that this was actually an area of stress for some parents, particularly in those early days. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, so I think from my experience, especially when Charlie was first born, he was so tiny, he couldn't wear clothes. The clinical teams needed to keep an eye on his skin colour, his breathing, his heart rate. So a nappy was all that he had. And they were so tiny. And also his skin was very, very fragile. 15 years ago, we didn't have the choices that we have now. And if we'd had an opportunity for something like Mama Bamboo, sustainable nappies, I'd have been completely down that road. But I think partly it's because your baby's skin is so fragile and you just want to give them the best. If that's all you can give them when they're just in the incubator, aside from obviously being able to hopefully express and breastfeed, but is just to make things kinder for them.
Their skin is so almost translucent in those early days.
It is. And I think that's you don't realise until you're in that situation. And so anything can trigger a rash or cause problems. So the antibacterial side of the bamboo nappies is just so much. Makes so much more sense and kinder. And the feedback we've had already from some of the parents is how soft.
Yes, they're super, super soft. I must say, every time you send us through some of the feedback from parents, I do have a little party moment because they all kind of come back saying, we can tell the difference, they're so much softer, they feel high quality, and and one or two have said it's cleared up nappy rash already, they're not seeing sort of irritation on their skin, so that does give me a very positive moment every time you send them through, so keep them coming.
Absolutely. And I think also, obviously when we were talking about the design, we had some neonatal nurses involved, and it looking at again, when their skin is so fragile, that the plastic, the elastic in the nappies of other brands is what would potentially cut into the baby's skin. So having this option and opportunity to present these nappies to parents as a gift as well, a really nice gift when they're on the unit, and when everything is confusing and a bit of a blur, then actually they love having a gift.
It's nice to have something. And I think even today, it's not that easy to get hold of size 0 or Premmie baby nappies. It's not sort of readily available on the shelf. So actually, it's just that little bit of, it's a stress that you just don't need at those early days. You're sending out your partner to go and hunt around the shops to try and find nappies. So hopefully, we've started with the 5 units that we've done so far. But ideally, if the Give Another Mother scheme takes off, which we really hope it will, we'd love to think that we can expand this and get the nappies out to many more families across the UK.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And I know that the visit to Croydon that we've had today, it's the parents are really enjoying them, the staff are really enjoying them as well. So I think that would be great if we could do that and
just keep going. And what have you got in plans for Ickle Pickles and expansion?
So the vision is to support up to 150 hospitals, neonatal units around the country, which is quite a big vision. But we have set up the Ickle Pickles Pledge. We've got about 20 hospitals already signed up to it. And it's about us working with the neonatal teams, identify the equipment that they need, them helping us get in touch with parents that may want to fundraise, donate, and just being able to give back to those, to the units that supported their babies. So there's a real push on that side of things, and to keep the coffee mornings going.
Mornings going, because I think they are a really valuable activity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so often we're talking about them being peer support groups, so that actually they are, the parents that have been there, done it, got the T-shirts, are integral in those sessions. So
that's wonderful. Oh well, I wish you luck with it. I hope you get to all 150. I really hope people join us in donating the nappies, and hopefully we can get those out to 150 units in future.
Absolutely, that would be fantastic. And I think, thank you again, because the Give Another Mother scheme is inspiring. So,
wonderful. Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for the visit to Croydon. It was fabulous today, and for championing our charity efforts.
Fabulous. Thanks, Laura.
Cheers.